Okay, boys and girls, I'm going to tell you now about a type of art that comes from a different country than the United States, and it is called Australia. So this is where we are, all the way in the United States, USA. This is where we live, and this is the country Australia. If I wanted to get to Australia, I would have to start in the USA and take a plane all the way across the ocean, across Africa, Europe, all the way to Australia. So all the way across the world to get to Australia. Now in Australia, it looks very different than America. There's lots of deserts in Australia, and there's lots of beaches and islands across Australia. So there's a lot of different types of animals that we see in Australia, and different than the United States. So the art in Australia is a lot different too. Lots of people in Australia make art that is what they see. So what they see in Australia are animals that are different than what we see in the United States, like koalas and lots of sea creatures because they live near the ocean, just like this picture right here. Lots of turtles and some snakes and different types of animals live in Australia. So a certain type of people from Australia, many, many years ago, before they had paper and before they made paintings and drawings, before they had paint, they used to paint on cave walls. These people lived outside. So these are different examples of art that has come from people from Australia many hundreds of years ago. Here's another cave painting of an animal that they saw in the desert, so they painted on the cave wall. Another type of art from Australia here, you can kind of see that in Australia, many hundreds of years ago, they did not have paintbrushes and paper. So they had to use sticks to make little tiny dots of color to paint their pictures. So this is a picture of a bird, and if you can see really closely, all these little tiny dots of color are from a little tiny stick that they found outside to make their paintings. So we're gonna get some inspiration from that style of art today to make our own type of Australian picture. So what you're gonna start with, boys and girls, is your brown piece of paper and write your name on the back. You're going to choose 3 shapes from your basket that you would like to use your chalk. And these shapes in your basket kind of look like the animals or the plants or the things that you would see from Australian art, like the hands that we saw in the cave, snakes and koalas, different types of animals that you would see in Australia. So I'm going to pick 3 of these to start. And I want to kind of make this look like the cave painting that I showed you before, the one with all the hands on the wall. So we're going to use our chalk pastel to kind of make these shapes look like they're drawn on a cave wall. So I'm going to pick a shape, and I'm going to pick a color first of my chalk. It doesn't matter what color. Put my paper aside, and I'm going to draw on the sides of the shape here so that I get a lot of chalk on the sides. So we kind of practiced this when we were making our heart pictures. We cut out those hearts and we put chalk all along the sides. After I get chalk on all the outside of the shape here, there's lots of chalk on there. Then I'm going to take it and put it on my paper, and I'm going to hold in the middle and press and smooth the chalk onto the paper all the way around the sides, around the outsides. So I'm trying to go around all the outline of the shape to get lots of chalk onto my paper. Once I think I've gone all the way around, I'm going to take it off, and I can see my shape from before. And I'll do that 3 times. So I'm going to do that with the fish and the hand here in different spots. After I've done that, let's just imagine that I've done that 3 times. Then I'm going to choose 3 more shapes, and I'm going to trace those shapes. 1, 2, 3. So here's my shapes that I blended with the chalk, and then I'm going to trace 3 more shapes. So I'll put my shapes on my paper, and I'm just going to take any color of chalk, and I'm going to trace these shapes. So holding in the middle of the shape, and go around the outside and trace 3 more shapes. Okay, so in my picture I have some handprints, some flowers, a fish, and a turtle. You can kind of see the outline of each of those shapes. Now once I have some shapes in my background, 6 shapes or more, now it's time to use some paint. Now I told you before how in Australia they did not have, hundreds of years ago, they did not have paintbrushes that they could make their paintings with. They had to take little tiny wooden sticks and they had to make little tiny dots of paint to cover in their paintings. So we're going to try and practice that today. You have a little paper plate of different colors of paint at your table, and you have a little brush, and we're not going to use the brush side, we're going to use the stick side. So you have to flip your paintbrush upside down and dip in one color to start. Now I'm going to try and fill in some of these shapes with different colors. So I think I'll start with the handprint right here. So let me zoom into that handprint. Now I'm going to take that red that I just put on my stick, and I'm just going to color in by only pressing with my wooden stick with my paint. Now you can kind of see as I press more, the paint kind of runs out a little bit. It's kind of running out. I need to go back and dip in my paint again and get a little bit more. So I can just fill this in one color, or I can try and do a color pattern. If I want to change colors, I have to take my wet rag at my table and wipe this off a little bit before I dip in a new color so I don't mix colors at my table. Let's say I want to switch a color here. Maybe I can switch to green. I'll dip in the green, and I can do some green color all the way around. I can do the outline of the shape so that I can still see the shape in the end. Or I can do red, green as a pattern going all the way around. So I'll keep doing this until I've kind of filled in my shape here. When you fill in your shapes, they'll start to look kind of like this. You've got all those little dots mixed together. I did yellow for my outline and red and orange in the middle. So your goal is to fill in at least 3 shapes with the paint. Okay, so you're going to trace 6 shapes and fill in at least 3 shapes with the paint. You can make these very colorful if you like. I can switch colors again, and I can go on the inside of this outline with the yellow. And I'm going to keep dipping in my paint every time because I'm going to run out of paint here. So I'm going to keep dipping and dipping and filling in my shape. Okay?